All right, for today's lesson, we're going to tackle the unit rate. You guys are all capable of understanding what the unit rate is and how to calculate the unit rate. Before we get to the unit rate, I want to look at examples of what rates are. So you can see in the left box, I've written down two different rates. The first one is 400 miles in 5 hours. That's a rate. It's a ratio that compares two values with different units. In the first example, it's miles to hours. In example 2, you can see that the rate is 1/2 inch in 1/4 month. That's a rate. Now, if we look in the yellow box, what I've done is I've taken those rates from our first two examples and I've calculated the unit rate. And when you look at the rates in the yellow box, you should notice that the second part of the rate is a 1. For example, 80 miles in 1 hour. That's a unit rate because the second part of the ratio is 1. And that's really what we need to do. We need to take rates and convert them into unit rates. So you can see I've written in the yellow box two ways to write a unit rate. Now my personal favorite way to write it is the green example, 80 miles per hour or /hour. That's the best way to write a rate. So moving on to the second page, we're going to take some rates and we're going to convert them to unit rates. Now, I've used our two examples from the previous page. So you can see our first one here is 400 miles in 5 hours. To make it a unit rate, we're going to have to get that second part, the 5 hours, down to 1 hour. And the way that we do that is by using division. We're going to divide both 400 and 5 by 5. When we do that, that's going to get us to a unit rate. The example is 80 miles in 1 hour. Notice that the second part of our ratio is a 1. That means we have a unit rate. And the unit rate has many different applications, and we'll get to those applications in a little bit. But let's look at our second example, the 1/2 inch in 1/4 month. So of course I need to get that 1/4 month down to 1 month. In order to do that, I'm going to divide each side of that rate by 1/4. Now we know that 1/2 divided by 1/4, well, since we're dividing fractions, we're going to have to use our reciprocal and change it to multiplication. So that's what I did. And when I did that, I got 2 inches in 1 month. So that's my unit rate. If we look over at the right-hand box here, we can see that calculating unit rates can be very useful when you're spending money. Okay, we also know that we got to get that second number to 1. We're going to use division to make that happen. And calculating unit rates is going to make you a better consumer. When you're spending money, you always want to get the best deal, and the unit rate is going to help you make the best decision with your money. To prove that point, let's take a look at this example. We're going to be buying some gum, and what we want to do is we want to get the best deal. Obviously, you work hard for your money. You want to get the best or most out of your money. So there's going to be 3 examples here, and the way to figure out what the best deal is to find the unit rate. So we can do that. So for our first choice, we're going to spend $3.60 for 24 pieces of gum. Well, that's not very useful to me unless I convert it to the unit rate. So you can see what I'm doing here. I'm going to divide both parts of my rate by 24. And when I do that, I find out that it costs 15 cents per piece of gum. All right, so that's a unit rate, 15 cents a piece. In the second example, I'm going to pay $13.92 for 96 pieces. Well, that's not very useful to me unless, of course, I convert it into a unit rate. And then I can compare it to my other unit rate. So for example B, I'm going to be paying 14.5 cents per piece of gum. All right, that's slightly better than choice A. So far, choice B is the best way to go. It's the best way to use my money. And example C, I'm going to buy a package of gum that has 144 pieces, and that package is going to cost me $20.16. Of course, I'm going to see what my unit rate is. I'm going to do that by dividing by 144. When I do that, I find that the unit rate is 14 cents a piece. So even though these are very, very close unit rates, only separated by a penny really, I can see that choice C is the best deal. It's the lowest amount per piece of gum. So I'm going to pull the trigger and I'm going to buy the package with 144 pieces simply because it has the best unit rate. I'm getting the most gum for my money. So that's the unit rate. If you need a refresher, you can go ahead and watch the video again. Thanks for watching.